As always, this podcast is brought to you by Andersen Windows. We recently had a nice time spending a few days with them. We're very appreciative of their support and what they have done for the Modern Craftsman podcast. Have you ever installed a pivot door? Andersen is telling the story of one epic pivot door install on their ProViews blog. Get an overview of the basic steps plus a few tricks on how to locate the door pins and adjust the closer box. Find this story and other experiences from the job site on andersenwindows.com.
This podcast is brought to you by Buildertrend. The team at Buildertrend knows learning construction tech doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes effort, but they're here to help every step of the way. And one of the very best ways to do that is Buildertrend University. This is a 2-day conference held every month at Buildertrend headquarters in Omaha, Nebraska. I've been, it's awesome and a huge game changer. Builders can dive into feature-based classes and take advantage of one-on-one learning with their support team. Registration for June session is now open. This session is all about starting strong with Buildertrend and ideal for new users or those looking for some extra help starting to use the software. You'll get the hands-on training you need to get set up for success from the very beginning. So if you're not yet a Buildertrend customer, take the leap now, then register for this next level training at buildertrend.com/MPBTU for just $199. Included is a dinner party, happy hours, and take-home materials too. That means you're having a good time and connecting with other construction pros while learning the system that's going to change your business. Be sure to register at buildertrend.com/MPBTU and select the June session.
Hey, Modern Craftsman podcast. What is it?
Hey,
Modern Craftsman Monday? I
Modern
thought you were
Craftsman.
I thought you were going to go, and then I was like, he's not going.
I was taking a deep breath.
Oh, so
Uh,
we
yeah.
we had Chris Murray on today. Chris has been a longtime friend, somebody who I've looked up to for what he's doing in work, but honestly, the support that he has given me and friendship he has provided me, whether it be online, conversations, offline. He's a really nice guy with a lot of life perspective, business perspective, somebody I can look up to who's sorry, Chris, but a few years older than me. He does some really, really fantastic work, which unfortunately he is not allowed to post a lot of, but hopefully I can get him to send us some photos that we can share of his work. But a really good conversation with him, a lot of life, a lot of business, some discussion about blended family, his new wife, his business, really striking out on his own from an early age, and then revisiting what his business looked like over the past 10 years and shifting focus some. So it was a really good conversation. Chris is a really good guy. He does not have a website, but you can find him on Chris Murray Custom Cabinets. He has an Instagram profile that you can check out.
But not an influencer, as
No,
Tyler
no, he's not an influencer.
noted early on. No, Chris is really cool. What I appreciated about the conversation was, kind of talking about how he really made these big strides later in his 30s.
Yeah.
And the conversation about health and wellness, which you guys know we've talked about quite a bit recently, but how that really changed his life over the last 13 years and how it allowed him to be not only just a better business person, but a better man as well. So
Yeah, check him out. Chris is a really humble, kind, great guy who would be more than willing to help anyone. So if you have a chance, check out his work, reach out to him, and listen to the podcast. Thanks, guys. No karaoke?
No karaoke.
Oh, damn.
Do I look
Well,
like a karaoke
listen,
fan?
that was one of the things on the docket for today was a little bit of karaoke.
Oh,
So I
that's
hope you're
fun.
ready.
You guys start. I'll do backup.
Tyler, have you ever
Um,
done karaoke?
No, karaoke wasn't really a thing until, I mean, I guess it was, but people started going to karaoke bars after I stopped drinking, so it was never I mean, I might do it now, but like the age between 23 and 30, I was
Mm.
not doing karaoke sober.
I never been
Yeah.
to there. Like I've been to a karaoke bar, like where they just have it's like just a bar with like a stage that people do karaoke. But I went out in
Yeah.
New York City one night, and I didn't realize karaoke bars are a thing. And you go, and there's like 100 rooms, and everyone's
Right.
in there just singing, doing karaoke. Like, it was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. And I remember being with my wife, and she's like, "You don't know what this is?" I'm like, "I didn't know these existed."
No, that's a New York thing.
Definitely.
Chris, did you think
Years
we were?
ago, I used
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say years ago, I used to, back before the business was a business, I used to travel quite a bit, and I spent some time in Uganda, and I went to the craziest bar I've ever seen in my entire life, where they do, it's a lip sync bar. There's no karaoke. They get up and perform other people's music. It's an entire lip sync stage, whole 9 yards. It's
This
crazy.
sounds prior to cell phones, huh?
Definitely prior to
No,
no.
So you
no,
had cell phones? You have video of this?
I no, I have no video.
That's what I'm getting at.
I'm not making it up. You can ask your Ugandan listeners.
What were you doing in Uganda?
Just traveling. I used to shut the shop down for a little bit every year and do some traveling, kind of like what Ken DeCoste does. I mean, he gets out and sees the world.
Yeah.
And I was younger and braver and didn't need as much of my bank account, I guess, and used to just travel.
Yeah,
It was great.
really getting your really getting a cultural experience by going to Ugandan lip syncing bars.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how I made it there, but my God. Yeah. Anyway, that wasn't the story I was expecting to tell first thing on the show. But what do you guys want to talk about?
With first off, I got to thank you for the coffee.
Oh, my pleasure.
That and also the recommendation for coffee maker. And my biggest issue right now is that we drink more coffee than we ever have. So I'm just like burning through coffee at home because it's so easy to
Yeah.
make now, and I'm not having to
I
pour
know.
over every time.
Yeah.
What kind of coffee
Um,
maker is it?
Technivorm Mocha Master.
Yeah, so they have a bunch of different models. Essentially, it's like a pour over type device, drip coffee. But makes it a lot easier, simplifies that process. You're not sitting there like pouring over your coffee, waiting, and then pouring more. And then I'm like, as soon as I finish the pot, Rachel's like, "Are you serious? I have to make more now." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's what happens." So now,
That's how it works. I drain the pot in the morning and then make another one for Christy before I head out.
all right, good. So I'm not the only
It
one.
works. No, you're not alone.
Also, the measurements on there make me feel like I'm drinking way more coffee because I'll make, I guess it's 10 or 12 cups. And I'm like, that's a lot of coffee. And it's not really. It's I guess, some sort of European measurement. So
Small cups, yeah.
yeah. So I was like, damn, I already went through 12 cups of coffee before anyone else got up.
Is it ounces? It's not ounces.
No,
I
it's
don't know
not.
what
It's
it
not
is. It's just
ounces.
smaller portions.
Yeah, it's something where the cups are measured differently.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks. Thank you for that. I was also going through my text messages and I was like, man, he sent me videos grinding the beans and then this like display case of beans. And I was like, we don't have coffee places like that.
It's right next door. It's 100 yards from, not even 100 feet from the shop.
Oh, dude, if we
It's
were
great.
that close to a coffee shop, we have nothing around our shop. Like my office, like you can't walk to anything. And if
Because it's in an
yeah, it's just in
industrial
an
area.
industrial park outside of the city.
Right.
You know, anytime I'm in the city, it's like if I drive by a cool coffee shop, I'll just pull over, double park, and I'll definitely go
Right.
get a coffee. But at the office, no, it's has to be here. Whatever's here is what I have.
Caliber's a really interesting place because they're not a coffee shop. They're a coffee roaster. So they produce, they roast the coffee and they sell incredible coffee makers, but they don't actually have a coffee shop.
Probably smells so good though all day long.
It does. Yeah. And then we've got a brewery right next door as well. So some days it smells like coffee and other days it smells like brewer's mash. It could be terrible or it could be really good. depends on the day.
You got a little bit of each. So you and I connected a long time ago, but we finally got an opportunity to speak when Christy from House Envy Interiors, your wife, got a hold of me and was like, yo, Chris is going to hop on a call with you. And we spoke. I guess it was probably 2 years ago at this point. And I think
easily
the conversation was based around the scale of your business, which is small
Right.
scale, high end, and the conversation was, and correct me if I'm wrong, was something along the lines of we work our entire lives to create this business and this product that sets us apart, and then
Yeah.
we developed a need and a want and a following for that business, and then we don't know how to either put people in place or fulfill that volume and that need, and being okay with
Right.
not being able to work for everyone, really refining your brand, refining what you're doing, and maintaining that boutique brand. So, how's that going for you?
I well, great. I mean, I'm in a better place now than I've ever been, business wise, because I think, wow, when I talked to you, I was going through some shit. Like, I don't know if it was as much a business conversation as it was just like a psychological conversation. It was, we were having just such a, I was having such a hard time trying to figure out where I needed to be. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I think you get beat down by the process. You don't know the direction you're going. You're spinning in a million different ways. And you see guys out there that are, crewing up. They've got big equipment. They're doing mass volume. And I was just wondering where I was going to go. And I just stayed the course. And I mean, Instagram is the only way of seeing what we do. We don't have a proper website. We don't do any advertising outside of Instagram, but you can see, if anybody visits our page, you can see what we do. And it's just custom work over and over and over again. And we run a really small shop. We're 3,500 square feet, and there's just 3 of us. And I'm on the tools every day.
So,
And it's
after
exactly where I should be.
so after having that conversation, what you didn't make any massive changes. What exactly went through your head, and what happened?
You said to me, and I carry this with me quite. I think about it quite often. You said to me, "Wouldn't it be great if you could just build one less kitchen a year and spend that time with your family?" And that kind of set the course. It was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do 15 kitchens a year, why don't I figure out a way to do 12 kitchens a year? Why don't
And
I figure out a way to do 6 dining room tables instead of a dozen?
And
Get my
when you're
head
thinking
screwed on
about
straight and do it.
and when you're thinking about that, is that, let's do, instead of doing 15 at 10,000 a piece, we're doing, 12 at 15,000 a piece?
Yeah, and it's increased prices for sure. It's also pull your head out of your ass and get your stuff systemized.
Mhm.
Like, it's a custom shop. Just because it's a custom shop doesn't mean I need to be doing everything a different way every
Yeah.
time. So it's like systemization has been huge for us. Nick, when I listen to you guys talk about panelized building process and stuff like that, like, I get it. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We create custom work using the same systems over and over again. And I
Mhm.
use all of the stuff that I've figured out over the last 30 years, every trick,
Mhm.
to try to make it better every time.
I
And
think
so
that's
we
what
change. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's what people misconstrued. It's, it can be custom. People are like, "Oh, panelize, you only can do, you know, what they're capable of doing," or like, "No, if you have a CNC, do it." Like, now you're just
Right.
becoming a production shop. It's like,
Right.
sure, in some sense, yeah, that is really, allowing a production shop to create efficiencies, because that's where their profit margin is going to be, by reducing the cost of, per piece, right?
Right.
Where a custom shop, I've said this for a long time, where, the more you can kind of offload onto, say, a CNC, or to a more efficient process, the less expensive that portion becomes, which
Yeah.
means if you're selling it for the same price, you either A, make a higher profit, or B, you're able to spend more time in making something that much better, or more creative, or cooler,
Right.
because you now have pennies in the bank to do that.
Yeah. It's
And
true.
that is, from the panelization conversation, that's exactly where our mind's at. And I've said it a handful of times, where we are exploring that for a handful of projects, and we're realizing that, it's not necessarily plug and play, and not, it doesn't work on every project. And or there's constraints that you need to, or considerations that you need to make before jumping into it. But
Right.
the incremental move towards that, will really allow us to be more creative.
It's also, it's still handmade. I mean, I think that's
Absolutely.
something that
Yeah.
it's something that we struggle with as craftspeople. It's like, are we going to just get the robot to do it, or are we going to do it? Well,
Right.
we're still doing it. Like we're still custom designed,
Hmm.
handmade product.
Yeah.
The router's going to be cutting the boxes, or
Sure.
we're going to be using a great sliding table saw to knock stuff out. That doesn't mean that it's not still built by Adrian, Jeff, and Chris. I mean,
Hmm.
that's what we do. So it just makes it faster. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not getting any younger. So
Hmm.
like lifting sheets of melamine or plywood all day long, my God, like we got to figure out a way of doing it easier and doing it faster, and but still maintaining that bespoke shop. Somehow we figured it out. I mean, it's not perfect. My God, we got so much more to do, but um, it makes
Well, it's also
my daily stuff so much better to be systemized and to be able to know how we're going to do every step. You know?
it it also helps the whole conversation around, people in the trades need to be paid more.
Yeah.
That you need to make more money. It's like
Right.
that's absolutely fair. But you can't, yes, the cost of living continues to increase,
Yeah.
but we can't be hard pressed to say I'm not switching to a sliding table, so I'm gonna use my handsaw because that's what make using your hands means. Well,
Right.
now if you want to make a decent wage, and multiplied by the hours it takes to cut plywood with a handsaw, is going to be astronomically expensive, and it's not
Right.
marketable. So,
No, not at all.
in order for you to make a decent wage, you need to continue to increase efficiency, to, reduce the amount of man hours it takes to build something.
Right.
And, unless someone has a dire need for someone to build, their kitchen or cabinet completely by hand, with
Right.
an artistic approach that, they don't want a single piece of machinery to touch it for the whatever sake that they've determined is worth paying for, sure. But that client is non-existent in
Right.
most, if not every market.
That's exactly true. Um, I mean, the situation we're in is that we're custom. Everything we do is one of a kind. We don't have a
Hmm.
showroom. Um, we don't do the same thing twice.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that we don't build the same way every time.
Right.
And my guys bring that to the table. Like they know how to make it better every time, or we find those little efficiencies along the way that still allow us to enjoy what we do in the shop. We're still custom builders. We're still doing furniture. We're still doing all that stuff. But at least we don't have to struggle over the easy stuff like box construction and things like that on a day to day. It's great.
Hmm.
I mean, as
Chris,
far as, yeah, go ahead.
how old's the shop that you're in, like the space that you're in?
Oh, over 100 years.
Yeah, it
100
looks
and
so. I've only seen little glimpses of it online,
yeah,
but like the floorboards and stuff like that, it
it's
looks really
incredible.
old.
Yeah, we're really lucky. The building itself is, yeah, it's about 120 years old, which I mean for around here, it's all timber frame construction. The whole building itself is Douglas fir, solid Douglas fir. It's unbelievable. The floor system is 2x6 on edge with maple floor over top.
Mm.
It took a forest to build this place. It's crazy. And so my brother runs his upholstery shop next door. Christy has her homeware shop upstairs. We've got, I don't know what it is total. With a basement and everything, it's probably about 16, 17,000 square feet. And it's all family businesses in here, just our family.
That's cool. Yeah, I you don't have
Yeah.
a ton. You don't show a ton of your shop, but looking at some photos, I'm like, that looks like a really old building. And then I got to thinking how
Yeah.
cool it would be to be able to go around and get like acquire buildings like that and turn them into really neat spaces for people to build in. I don't
Oh, it'd be
that
great.
I just think there's something to be said for building in an old shop like that versus just a brand new shop with concrete floors and very pristine. Like, it's nice to have the new
Right.
equipment, but that, like, the heritage and the everything that's involved with building in an old building like that is so
Yeah.
cool.
It's part of our branding. It's like the the quality of this building and the way that it is it reflects exactly who we are as
Yeah.
builders. And I mean that for my brother's shop as well too. He's a master upholsterer. I mean, there's nobody out there doing this work anymore, and that's what he does, and that's what our building reflects. It's old, it's handmade, and it's quality, and it stands the test of time. So
It's interesting though because a lot of the work that you put out is more of a modern style or a
yeah,
transitional
I would
style. It's
agree.
not, it's
Yeah,
not like a very traditional authentic building, and you're building the juxtaposition between what's coming out of that
yeah,
shop and what that shop
yeah,
looks like. It's like a stark contrast there.
yeah. It's true. It's not lost on me. I mean, I come from. I was the guy in the city that was able to do face frame inset doors,
Mhm.
traditional stuff. That was where I came from, but my business was so focused on designer relations that now the designers that we work for have very specific style, and I've really fallen in love with that. Like you said, transitional style, um, just more modern techniques. It's yeah, you're right. It is a juxtaposition to say the least coming out of an old building like this.
So, I know we really jumped into things, but being that you're not a
Mhm.
massive social media influencer, you don't have a proper website.
What?
Um, I want to get to know a little bit about yourself, and I was digging through social, and I
Sure.
saw the photo and post that you made about the screwdriver from a tool set when you were young,
It's
however many
that's in my office.
Christmases ago. Um,
Mhm.
can you tell the listeners that story and how that somewhat planted the seed in you to be who you are today?
Well, yeah, it's funny because I come from a long line of just really capable people. Like like my parents, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, everybody's either a builder or an artist or just able to do whatever they needed to do. I mean, they when I was a kid, we didn't hire anything out. My dad did everything in the house, every renovation, uh, all the remodel work, everything was done by him. And my mom, the same way. And she, to this day, they're still in there helping. If we need help at the building, they're here helping. But when I was young, I mean, it was a different time, right? You could give your kid like a functioning handsaw at three
Yeah,
years old in a toolbox. You know, it
pocket
was
knife.
different. It's yeah, exactly. Go whittle, which isn't. That's what my grandpa did. Um, but yeah, when I was about, I think 3, 4 years old, I got a toolbox for Christmas. I remember it like it, you know, not like it was yesterday, but I remember it. And it was the full deal, like hand saws, screwdrivers, coping saws, everything inside this toolbox. And it came with a ton of balsa wood to work with. So it was just one of my earliest memories was making things in my grandfather's shop and um, using that toolbox. And it just kind of started there. And it still goes. God, it's been an entire lifetime of building so far.
So I think about memories like that in my life as well, and they create this
Hmm.
very distinct, visceral emotion that you can almost feel.
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
think that you take any of that with you today? And it for me, it's really difficult when I look at a job. It's hard to see what I'm doing, but are you able to pull any of that experience and those feelings that you had as that 3 or 4 year old and step
Yeah.
back and appreciate what you're doing today?
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, I don't want to sound too, overly romantic about what I do for a living, but this is what I've just about what I've wanted to do my entire life. Like
Why don't you why don't
building,
you
whether
why
it's
don't you wanna sound overly romantic?
I don't know, it just because I don't know if it sounds is it does it sound honest? You know what I mean? I don't
Mm,
want to make it out to be something bigger than it is, because some people
got it.
don't see what we do as a living, as our craft as being, I don't know. I just don't want to sound insincere, but the reality is that this is what I've always done, and this is what I love to do. And I can't imagine doing any other job. Like, I can't imagine doing anything else but build. I mean, I've had a career of, working in the movie industry, building sets, uh, being a general contractor for a while, all of that stuff. But it's always been hands-on building. And to this day, I'm still in the shop every day, and that's because I love it. I mean, I absolutely love what I do. I I absolutely hate what I do some days as well too. But
I think
um,
that's normal though.
Yeah.
yeah, oh god, yeah, oh my,
So
yeah. It's
so some of your first experiences building as I guess I want to hear a little bit about your adolescence. I know that you said you had skateboarded. We had a conversation where
oh yeah.
you were stealing lumber from job sites to make skateboard ramps.
I still work for that guy to this day. I work for him
That's
building his kitchens
that's
now.
amazing. I
Yeah,
recall the same thing. They tore a house down across the street from us, and they were building a new house. And I remember just crossing the street and picking lumber out of the dumpster and being
yeah.
like, "I can't believe that they're throwing all of this away. Like, there's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with this." Coming from working
yeah,
with my dad on his rental properties, where you would be pulling nails out of wood to reuse it, and I'm like, "They're just
yeah,
throwing away quarter sheets of plywood, and there's no
yeah.
nails in them to pull out or anything." Um, what what was your the extent of your building and hands-on in your youth that continued to feed that hunger that you had for building?
When I was a kid, we'd spend our summers in Montana with relatives, and they had a huge. I mean, it was unbelievable. There's just trees everywhere, and we would just be set free to build whatever we wanted. We had tree houses, and oh god, the stuff that we would build. That was our childhood, just making tree houses and whatever. And then as I got older, um, and got into skateboarding, then all of a sudden we're building mini ramps and launch ramps
Hell yeah.
and everything. Like, we're just building all the time just to launch our bodies off ramps and everything else. And yeah, I mean, that's just what we did. So stole lumber, built ramps. Sorry, Tom, for all that lumber I stole from you.
You took it, but you took it
Um,
out of it. I mean, ultimately, it saved money if it came out of a dumpster.
yeah.
Dude, launch ramps
Well,
are the shit
if
though.
it if
Dude, I haven't.
if it came out of a dumpster,
True. I haven't thought about the
right,
ramps that I've built. I didn't skate, but I
right,
quote unquote BMX'd, and we built
yeah,
some crazy shit. And
yeah,
I remember building this ramp in my front yard. I had a couple, but I remember this one in the front yard that it was just like I took a full sheet of plywood. I didn't have a saw to cut it, so I was like, "All right,
right,
it's 4 feet by 8 feet, and I'm gonna bend it
hmm,
until I can't bend it anymore, and I'm gonna screw it right there." And I
right,
remember I made the landing ramp, and I had this. I made these like homemade trusses for a shed I was building out in my backyard, and I had one left over, and I put it underneath the landing ramp, and I put like a center post from like where the ridge would be on that truss up to the bottom of the the ramp, thinking it would
oh, it'll
support.
support you for sure. Yeah,
And but when it was on the ground, that truss was probably 12 inches like off the
yeah.
ground. So when you landed on it, it was like a spring. It was the smoothest landing ramp. And I was like, I did that on purpose. It's my it's this is my killer landing ramp.
I think about launch ramps. So we used to tell our parents that they were launch ramps, and as an adult, just listening to the moniker launch ramps and my parents being okay with us building these and then setting them up in the
Right.
street. Like, we weren't doing
Yeah.
this in the yard. It's just
Yeah,
like, yeah,
very
pull it
true.
out in the middle of the
Yeah.
street and let's jump shit in the middle of the street off of a
That's right.
launch ramp.
We'd build them at somebody's house, and then we'd put them on our boards and push them for blocks and
Yeah.
Mm.
blocks to get to like the smoothest, newest parking lot. And then you could spend the whole day shooting yourself off these launch ramps, and then you'd have to hide them in the bushes or whatever, so the maintenance guys wouldn't throw them away overnight.
around
Yeah,
and
So we'd
around.
hide them and then bring them out the next day and do it
we
again.
uh
And then it would disappear and we'd have to
we
build another
borrowed
one.
one from a buddy of mine, borrow in air quotes.
Yeah.
And put it at our house.
Yeah.
And like 2 weeks later, his mom shows up at our door and she's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's my son's launch ramp that he's been looking for. And we're like, oh, whoop, sorry. And we brought it.
Oh,
We
sorry.
brought it from like the other side of town. It wasn't like a
Right.
couple blocks away. I don't even recall how we transported this, but he lived on the other side of town where like back in the day they had a separate school. That's how far away it was. And somehow we
Right.
got this ramp from his house on that side of town to our side of town, only for his mom to come scoop it up in her minivan. It's like, there goes all of it. It probably took us like 2 days, got halfway there, like you said,
Right.
ditched it in the bushes, and then came back the next day for the rest of the journey. And she just like pulled up in her minivan, put it in, and took off. And we're like, damn it, there goes our dream. There goes our
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah. If that's not teaching some kid hard work, I don't know what is.
Yeah, seriously. Um,
Yeah.
so you had other jobs other than your cabinet shop?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was in art school, I guess, university. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be a art teacher. I don't know what I wanted to be, but I wanted to be in the creative field. And so I didn't know what to do. So I went to university. Trade school wasn't like, I never even thought about trade school. Not even for a minute. And once I got to university and I had this shop in front of me, like I could weld, I could use the woodworking equipment, all this stuff. All of a sudden, I just started drawing furniture and using the shop to do stuff for my friends. And it really wasn't about art school anymore. It wasn't about learning how to produce art. It wasn't about art history. It was just about getting to use the studio space as much as possible. And so I left university, which is probably the best thing I could have ever done because I shouldn't have been there in the first place. And took what was left of some tuition money and started buying some tools. And I rented a little shop and just sort of tried to figure out how to be a furniture maker because that, like, I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I was thinking that, oh, it's not that hard. I can figure it out. So
It's better than art
uh,
school.
I guess I don't know. I've been figuring it out for 30 years
Yeah.
now. Like it's anyway. So I left art school, had this little shop. I was working in restaurants and things like that to actually make money to live. And at this point, I'd moved out of my parents' house and had an apartment and everything. And I met a guy at work one day through a friend that was looking for an assistant to help as a painter in the movie business. So all of a sudden now I was 19 years old. Now I was a movie painter. I don't, what makes somebody think for a second that they could just like leave a restaurant and all of a sudden you're working in the movie business? But that's what I did. 19 years old. Now I'm a painter.
There
So I did that for 8 years and worked my way all the way up to the head of the construction department.
at the same company.
Well, you were your own
Okay.
business. Like you worked in the union. It was all freelance work. You'd get picked up based on your reputation, based on, jobs that you'd done in the past and all this stuff. Like I was thinking about it the other day, sort of leading up to the podcast, and I like checked out my IMDb and everything to see how long ago it's
Yeah.
been. Like I left the movie business in 2000, 2001. Like that was 10 lifetimes
Yeah,
ago. Like
over 20 years ago.
Mm.
yeah.
That they
But I was building kitchens for people and building furniture while working in the movie business.
and was
So
that just because that's what you wanted to be doing and the movie business was what was paying your bills?
yeah, yeah, basically. Like I wanted to be a furniture maker, but
There's such an
I mean,
appeal to the furniture maker thing when you're younger too,
yeah,
right? Like the point of entry seems low, the risk seems low, and it's like, yeah, I
right,
could do this. I could do this by myself. But when you
yeah,
get down to it, unless you have that artistic name for yourself, like it takes so
yeah.
long and you make no money. It's for somebody who's retired. Or unless you
We
like
laugh,
catch a break and become famous.
we laugh about it in the shop every day because like my guys love building furniture as well. I love building furniture. We run a cabinet shop to fund our furniture
Yeah.
Yeah.
building
Right.
shop.
And we have a furniture maker on, that works at
Right.
Materia, and we talk about it
Yeah.
constantly. Like, we're gonna do more furniture. We're gonna do more furniture, and we
Right.
we get a select piece here and there. And every time we do it, it's like it just doesn't make sense. Like,
We made
yeah,
no
we made no
money on
money, or
that.
like we got super
Yes.
creative. It's super
Yeah.
cool, but it's like, Ken and
Yeah.
I will chat, and we're like, the only
Yeah.
way to make this profitable is if we're making these at scale.
Right.
And
So what that's where that's the problem. It's like, well, I mean, there's great furniture shops out there. Yeah, they're doing it at scale. They're
mhm,
making money. Well, I think they're making money. I don't know.
sure.
They're getting by. Shop's still open. Um, I don't know. It's just different now. There's not that culture of just going to the furniture maker to
Mhm.
get a dining room table made.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky. I've got some clients that have got pieces of mine that they've had for years and years. I was just talking to one the other day. She's got a piece of mine that we built for her probably, well, it's got to be over 20 years ago now.
Mm,
She still uses it every day.
You
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
you think of the typical customer and what it would cost to commission a piece of furniture versus them not understanding the life cycle of that furniture as well, but
Right.
versus when they see that number versus, "Oh, I can go to this store and pick that up, and it'll last so long, and our kids are gonna trash it anyway." And I mean,
Right.
it's a hard sell. Like, you have to have a customer base
Yeah.
who's willing to pay an art premium
Yeah.
for that,
Yeah.
But
and
I think what
there's
you
not a lot of
Very
people.
true.
the lifespan is huge. What you just said, Tyler. Like, a lot of people don't buy furniture considering that. Where it's like, yeah, I don't care if
No.
this lasts 20 years. I mean, I'm probably not going to have this style anymore. It's very few
Exactly.
people. It's the people that are architecturally inspired, that are building custom homes, that are
Right.
into art. They're not, that's not the majority of the population. The majority of people are going to buy consumable products.
Yeah, I think
Right. So what is the lifespan? What is the lifespan for
I can tell you, I
a
I
dining room
I
table
I have
now?
an IKEA dresser that's lasted me 8 years.
Right.
But I mean, it's also the
Right.
generational
Yeah.
differences between, like, you're not passing down these heritage pieces
Right.
anymore. People are like,
Sure.
"Throw that shit out. It was my
Yeah.
grandmom's. I
Yeah.
don't wanna see it anymore."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got tons of those pieces stored upstairs right now.
Wait,
I can't get rid of, but we're not going to use them.
yeah, I mean, it's a shame, but yeah, I would imagine that that's few and far between at this point. So you essentially are self-taught from furniture
100%.
and kitchen.
Yeah.
How?
I don't recommend that
Well, I
to
mean, there's
people.
there's an argument on both sides of that, I would say, but what did like how did you end up doing that, taking it from knowing nothing, self-taught to where you are now,
Um,
screwing a lot of shit
I
up?
just, yeah. Oh yeah. Just fucking stuff up nonstop. Like, oh my God, it's an expensive method, right? I mean, I didn't even apprentice under somebody or go work in a shop. I had thought I was just the greatest.
Yeah.
I'm just going to learn how to do this
From
and
day
do it
one, you thought that you were,
from
yeah,
day
you were
one.
good.
Yeah. I mean,
What
that's,
gave
I
what
think
gave
that's
you
why I
that?
was saying I don't want to romanticize it because it's not in my mind, it's not the way to go about doing it, but it's the way that I did it.
Sure, but
So,
there's I mean, I feel like there's probably a lot of people that do it this way. What gave
oh
you the
yeah.
confidence to think that you were the best that early on?
Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that I thought it was the best, but I thought that I could figure it out. I think it's just maybe it's throwing yourself off those launch ramps over and over again.
Mm,
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's skateboarding. Maybe it's um, maybe it's generational. I don't know.
mm,
I know so many people that are my age that have done exactly that. I had friends that decided. My best friend Joel Fraser, he decided he wanted to be a skateboard, snowboard photographer.
mhm,
He decided that when he was like 14 years old. Guess what Joel Fraser became? That's what he did. He went out and became a photographer for Trans World and all those guys. I had friends that wanted to be artists, so they just did it. They just became artists. They wanted to be musicians. Now they're recording musicians. I mean, I think it's generational. I don't know if it's a Gen X thing. I don't play into that a lot, but it was just the time. You just decided what you wanted to do and you
I
tried it.
mean,
And either it stuck or it didn't.
the key component that you're missing from that, though, that we have to reiterate is that you were working another job to be able to make this happen as well.
Yeah.
Um, so
At first, for sure.
yeah, and I think that a lot of people don't realize where it's like, hey, times have changed. You can't just start a company and do what you want to do. And I know that I just recorded a podcast on, canceling the whole hustle culture, but I do believe there's a
Yeah.
time and a place for that as well. When you're young and you're looking to get your feet off the ground and you want to make
Yeah.
something happen and nobody's going to hand it over to you, that's the time to do it and struggle through it
Right.
and learn. And I believe that there's a lot of valuable lessons there that stick when you take the path that you did. I also think that there's a lot of ignorance and naivete there to be like, yeah, let's build a kitchen and like in a makeshift shop where you're like, I don't have, they'll just
Yeah.
figure it out,
Yeah. I don't know. Like I don't think back on those times a lot because it was I don't know why. I'm just always worried about deadlines and everything now. But
S-
we just did it. I mean, that was the draw for the movie industry for me as well too, because you're given a drawing and it's just
Yeah.
figure out how to build this town in the middle of nowhere, and make it look like, a cowboy, western town in the middle of the prairies, and we're going to be here in 3 weeks to shoot it for a
So
movie.
so time aside, 3 weeks to shoot the movie. What other constraints were you
Right.
given? We,
In the movie
yeah, I
business.
mean, was there a budget?
Oh, budget. Oh yeah, huge. I mean,
So
when I first started, the budget was everything.
so here.
We weren't shooting, Hollywood,
Mhm.
you know. You can check out my IMDb to see
These are
the
Canadian
high class
westerns.
films that yeah, exactly. Dusters and
Wait, well,
yeah,
well, with like, I'm curious because this is where I think a lot of people in this industry can take a note from, where it's like you're given the constraint of time and budget and you have to
yeah,
execute with little information. So in that
yeah,
scenario, you got 3 weeks to put together this Western neighborhood in the middle of nowhere, and your budget
right,
is X amount of dollars. How do you approach
yeah,
that? You being in the lead position of all construction in the film industry for this company,
right.
you know, what's your all right? Like, you get that information. What's step one?
Order material. Get your crew. Order material. So, God, we just flew by the seat of our pants for the most
Hmm.
part. There was a lot of guys that really knew what they were doing, but we were literally just flying by the seat of our pants when it came to anybody that works in the movie business now is going to say exactly the same
Hmm.
thing. Um, Everything is fake. Everything is just a skin. It's just a facade. So you're not building a full
Right.
building. You're building the front of a
Hmm.
building and making it look like when the camera goes past, it looks like an old spaghetti western, right?
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, that was a lifetime ago for me. That was 25 years ago doing that.
But I have to think that that relates to getting into cabinet making and furniture building, in
Yeah,
a way that gave you enough confidence to figure it out. And
yeah,
Chris, I'm with you. When I
yeah.
started, I was always just someone that was like, whatever, I'm going to say yes to everything and I'm going to figure it
Figure
out.
it out. Yeah, right.
And going back to what you said earlier, I love what I do. There are days that I
Yeah,
hate what I do. And,
yeah,
and there are days where it's like, I know that I make decisions that make my life very difficult. And
yeah,
I question that sometimes. But then it comes around and something goes great. And I'm like, this is why I do it. Like, here's the
yeah,
high. And
yeah,
then I make another decision that I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. And at
yeah,
the end of the day, it's like, I'm careful to preach that because, especially recently, where it's like I'm becoming more keenly aware that not everyone wants that. Not everyone wants
right.
to have enormous amount of responsibility, or or be wealthy, or like, there's a lot of people that just are cool doing what they do. And,
Right.
and I have a complex where I'm quite the opposite, where it's like when I get to a point, I'm like, all right, what's the next ceiling? Like, what's the next rung of the ladder? Um,
Right.
so going back, building these movie sets and kind of flying by the seat of your pants and starting this cabinet shop, you know, and being completely self-taught, I wanted to ask you earlier is, do you look back at some of those project number 1, 2, 3 to 20, right? And be like, man, I
Yeah.
can't believe I did it that way, or I can't believe that,
Yeah.
someone paid me to do that, and if so, like, what are some of those stories?
That's why he doesn't have a website.
That's
I don't want people to
that's why my
find it.
hair. That's why my hair is this color as well. Too. Oh yeah. By the way, how did you get your hair cut there,
Yeah, I
Tyler?
did.
Yet
I
today?
did. I
Yeah.
got it
Nice.
cut right before the podcast. My wife, I had it last week and I had to cancel because I was helping work on the softball fields, and my wife's like, I can get you in before your podcast next week. I was like, do it, but I can't be late.
Wait, Rachel cut your hair?
Yeah.
No, she just sets up my appointment, or else
Oh,
I don't go. She like tells me when I need a haircut,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then she sets
I
up my
use I use an
appointment.
app on my I use an app on my phone, but yeah, Christy tells me when I'm due.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I'm sorry, I got off tangent there. What was the question
That's okay.
again?
It
What
was a
were we talking
long-winded
about?
question. My the
No,
I
it's
was
fine.
getting to, thinking about those early days of running a cabinet shop, and some
Right.
of those early
Oh yeah.
projects, and thinking about, I
Yeah.
can't believe I did that, or I can't believe I someone paid me to do this. And, I've told some of these stories as well, and of, about
Right.
projects that I did and I was paid for, and, sure, they got a discount compared to what it would cost today, but
Yeah.
there's still things that I look back, I'm like, man, like, I just don't know why someone paid me to do that.
Yeah. Most of my stuff was sort of tool related, like just not having the equipment to do
Hmm.
what we needed to do to get the right finish, and having to go through like so many steps
Yeah.
to make something look like it looked in the magazines,
Yeah.
Um,
Which are
yeah,
also fake.
yeah, but at the time, right? I mean, well, so is Instagram, but I mean, I still look at the stuff and go, damn, like that's beautiful. I wish we could build that well. Um, I don't know. I mean, yeah, for me, it was more time management, and like, it wasn't the actual construction. I
Yeah.
sort of always had a head for how it went together. For me, it's like, customers going, why is it going to take 6 weeks to finish this job? Like, why can't you just finish it in a week? And it's because I was young and stupid
Hmm.
and couldn't manage my time, couldn't manage the, construction, taking on too much work, which even in my 30s and 40s, I still took on too much work.
Mm.
So,
Um,
Chris, I look at your business now and the work that you put
yeah,
out now, and I'm sure that you're not sharing a lot of the work that you put out. Um,
yeah, we about probably about a third or less of what we do.
So I look at work that is the oldest work that I can find of yours from roughly 10 years ago, and it's
Yeah,
drastically different. Um,
yeah.
to the point where
That's also me learning. That's also me learning Instagram as well too,
sure,
and learning. Yeah,
but it appears that within the past 10 years that, and I know that you mentioned working with designers has really accounted for a lot of that, but it really
yeah,
appears that not only the style of your work, but your skill set, the work that you're putting out,
hmm
the tooling, the systems, the processes have grown immensely
yeah,
within the past 10 years. So you're almost
yeah.
50, right?
This year,
Okay.
yeah, August
So
August 22nd. You can just send
I
presents.
already, all right. I got to put it, I'm going to actually have my wife do it.
Yeah, perfect.
um,
Yeah, Rachel has some stuff she wants me to talk to you about
that's
too, but
fine.
we can get into that later.
So at 40, you
Yeah,
progressed probably more in your career than you did from the years where people really think they're growing their business. So
yeah, absolutely.
what other
Everything happened to me late in life. I didn't have my first like Molly was born when I was 38 years old, 37,
and
38
that's
years old.
because you hadn't hit puberty?
It took me a very long
35.
time for my balls to drop. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, yeah, it's everything just happened later. I don't know. Like maybe it was because I was traveling and not. I Everything just happened later.
I just look at
So
I
yeah,
look at your career and I look at what you're doing and what you've done in the past 10 years, and
yeah,
typically that's indicative of somebody who's younger, uh, like, is coming out of
yeah,
the gate, has that drive, that hunger to be
yeah,
better and to grow their system and, like, you've done that at
right,
40 to
yeah,
49 right now.
right, yeah. I still have all those things. I just also have white hair and sore knees.
So how do you at
I
this
have that
point
drive every day. Yeah,
and where's that coming from at 49 years old to still want to push yourself? Because I'm
I don't.
37 now and I've been doing this 14
Yeah,
years and like you said, there's days I like and there's days I hate it, but I don't know if I would have the if I were to gauge my growth from 40 to 49, I don't know if I would have as much of a growth as you did. And where is that energy and that drive coming from?
I don't. It's just that creative drive, and it's gotten my life has gotten markably better over the last 5 years. I've had some personal things that I went through and made some changes in my life, and like it's not like I had a, anyway. I made some changes in my life, and things have gotten better. Also, in the last 5 years, I mean, I got together with Christy 5 years ago as well too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's she's an interior designer. She's a huge driving force for creativity and everything as well. I made changes as far as who I spend time with, um, who's in my core circle of people, people that are just really driven to do what I want to do as well. I work with general contractors that have that same drive, and so that's what's changed. I feel sort of free to push the envelope a bit. I'm more confident in my 40s that maybe I was in my 30s. I'm able to go out and see those designers and bid on jobs that I wouldn't have bid on. I don't know
Can
what it
can
is.
I
I don't see an end either.
can I ask you what and you don't have to get into details because I understand you have children and a
Right.
family and everything else, but what
Yeah.
changed? Because I think it's important to note that changes within your personal life or mentally, emotionally within yourself can create a better business, a more successful business, just an
Oh
overall.
God, yeah.
So what were you able to change within your capacity on a personal level in the past 5, 10 years that has just uplifted your life and your business as well? And you can go as much into that as you want or don't want.
Okay. Um, well, I mean, I've said to you before, I'm an open book, but I mean, I I know that in my 30s, I went through some challenges, mental health challenges. I was dealing with anxiety. I was dealing with depression. I was dealing with a bunch of things, and anybody that knows me knows that my spark just kind of left for a bit, and I was able to make some lifestyle choices. I don't really drink. I don't smoke anymore. I was a heavy smoker. Um, I didn't sleep well. I didn't eat well. I didn't take care of myself. And that just led to me being an unhappy person. And I think everything kind of stalled for my 30s.
Yeah.
I think everything just kind of went on pause. Maybe that's the late start, right? So then I just got my shit together. One day I woke up and went, I just don't feel good anymore. And I can't do this any longer. And I started going to the gym and I started, like I said, I quit smoking. I started taking care of myself. And it's been like, I don't want to sound like a fucking Bowflex commercial, but like
Chuck.
I'm 50 years old and I'm like, yeah, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm, I take care of myself. I go to the trainer. I eat
Did this
well. I
start
sleep well.
before you so you have 2 daughters, right? Or 1?
Well, we have a blended family. So Molly is my daughter,
Okay.
and then we have Grace and we have Kale, which are Christy's
So
children.
you had your first daughter, you said at 37. Did this
37,
Did
yeah.
this start
That
before
was
or
it.
at that was somewhat of the catalyst for you to say, "Okay."
No, that was it. That was the catalyst. When Molly was born, I just said, "That's it. I'm not smoking anymore." And that was the start.
Yeah.
That was the pebble that started the avalanche, I think.
And do
Yeah,
you
I know. Yeah.
and do you feel that that would have happened had she not come into your life at that point? Like,
No.
was it that bad? Did you need something
Yeah.
like that? Did you see that coming?
Yeah, yeah, it was bad. I don't and I see it more and more. I see it with my younger friends. I see it with friends in their 30s. I see um, guys that maybe don't take care of themselves, guys that really should be on medication, guys that should be thinking more about their mental health and thinking more about uh, the decisions they make. And I see it more and more where that anxiety is really knocking people out and really limiting their growth and their potential as people, you know. Um, yeah, it was for sure. It was Molly being born sent me in the right direction for
Was
sure.
it immediately, or I know for myself when Selby was born, I had already stopped drinking and I was aware of
Right.
issues that I had, but I thought I
Yeah.
had them under control until we had Selby. And then a couple of months later, my wife was like, "All right, you had gotten things under control." I still was not drinking, but
Right.
just my anxiety was so intense. Pretty much like literally immediately when she came out of my wife's vagina, it was like come out of the chute,
That, right at
anxiety
that
just
point.
on
Yeah.
top. And I remember walking from labor and delivery to
Yeah.
our room and being like, "Holy shit, what am I
What
doing?
am I going
I
to
have a
do?
child.
Yeah.
I'm a loser. I need to get my life together."
Yeah.
And like, so what I thought was under control spiraled out of control. I stayed relatively healthy, but I couldn't manage my mental anxiety and my emotional
Right.
state. So that's when I
Yeah.
got on medication, and it's been a work in progress since then, but
Yeah.
immensely better. Did you experience something similar where it was like
Very similar.
it got worse before it got better?
Yeah. I remember right after Molly was born, I'm standing outside. She's born in May. She's turning 13 uh, at the end of May. And so I remember the day that she was born, standing outside in the rain, smoking a cigarette, going, what the fuck am I gonna do?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do? Like at this point, all it was about was the business. It was about me. It was about wrenching on old VWs. It was about spending my time doing whatever I wanted to do. And then it became something different and really late.
Yeah.
Maybe not, later for some people, but for me, late in life. I mean, 37 years old and having a newborn. I mean, listen, Nick, I know that one or four, it doesn't matter to you. It's all the same. But at that, at
I
that
still
time,
feel
it
that
was
way.
like, it was huge. Really? No, you don't. Really? God, I got
Nah.
three now and it's crazy.
Yeah, so talk about that.
But
Talk about that some as well. So, Christy has 2 kids. Christy, and her
that's
business
right.
is House Envy Interiors.
Yeah. And you plus me home as well to put in a plug for
Okay.
her
So,
businesses. Yeah.
I kinda wanna jump into that, but also how did you guys meet?
In the business, um, we met working on a job. We got paired up with a builder. Was using her as the designer. I came in as a cabinet maker, and yeah, and now we're 5 years in
That's,
ish. Yeah,
that's impressive because I can't imagine having a long-term relationship with any designer or pretty much anyone that I've worked with.
what about Nick? I mean, you've got a long term relationship with Nick. It's
Yeah, but
good. It's
That
going
is very
strong.
it's
true.
limited. It's limited,
You're
right?
doing great.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Um, so you guys meet. She has 2 kids of her own at this point.
That's right. Yeah,
And you, like you said, you have a blended family at this point. What does that look like
yeah.
from your perspective?
Well, we have two 12-year-old daughters, almost 13 years old. You guys are in for some
Two at the
shit, by the
same.
way.
Yeah, that's like it
Dude,
might be worse than twins.
Yeah,
my
I'm like the ghost of Tyler Gray's future. It's like you're gonna see what it's like really soon, but um, it's tough. I mean, the kids are always into, like, Kale plays hockey and Grace plays volleyball and Molly's in cheer, and they all go to different schools, and it's pretty wild. Like, we spend a lot of time just driving kids around and dealing with all that stuff while trying to maintain three businesses, and life is really
Does everyone
full.
live together?
But I have Molly alternating
Okay.
weeks, so I don't have her this week. I'll have her again next week. That's an interesting dynamic, because the weeks that I don't have her, I just miss her
Yeah.
terribly. But I mean, she's with her mom, and her mom takes great care of her, and Molly's got a great life.
Is she close
Um,
by?
yeah, I mean, we live in a really small city. We're 15 minutes to anywhere,
mm,
but um, yeah, it works really well. So I don't know. Life is just it's. I say this over and over again. My life is just so freaking great. I mean, I can't. I said to my mom the other day, it sounds like I'm trying to convince you how good my life is, but, like, I've got a great life. I've got great kids. The Christy is the love of my life. We've got a house that's almost done, which, for contractors, you guys know that having
No such thing.
a home
mm.
a home that's finished is unheard of. So by 50, I think I'm going to have a finished house, which is incredible. Um, the business is great. I mean, yeah, life is awesome. It's difficult at times. It's hard to stay positive when, you deal with divorce, you deal with all of that stuff, the crazy stresses of running a shop. Um,
How
but it all works.
how long did you stay with Molly's mom until you decided to get divorced?
Um, 10
Okay.
years.
Um
Yeah.
and had has that been a so Nick and I at when we were in Minnesota last week had the realization that
Yeah.
we both experienced really terrible family divorces. Mine was later. Both of ours were later in life. I
Right.
was a sophomore, junior in high school, and Nick, you were
I
Mhm.
was
older,
a,
right?
I think I was a junior going into senior of high school.
Yeah.
Right. And I was just leaving high school.
Okay. So
So all three of us have been through that.
Yeah.
okay. So how did you like for me, I don't know if there's I've seen friends of mine growing up whose parents did a really good job of that. Mine did a fucking
Yeah.
terrible job of it. You say that you
Right.
have a really great life right now, and I don't think you would
Yeah.
just sit here and lie to us about that. So, what have you
Right.
been able to do to walk away from that and be in such a better spot than you were? And obviously, like you would have to attribute some of your happiness to the relationship with your daughter and the state that she is in. You know, I would assume if you got divorced and it ruined your daughter's life, you wouldn't be as happy as you are right now. So what have you guys been
No.
able to do to walk away from that and everyone be relatively happy and healthy and progressing in
Oh,
life?
I'll let you know in a few years. I don't I don't know. You just do it as on a day by day basis. And honestly, I think what contributes to that more than anything is just me having a better mindset, a better state of mental
Yeah.
health, to be honest. My goal is that my daughter and that Christy's kids are raised knowing that they've got family members that love them, and that's as far as it goes. We have nothing but love for our kids, and we do whatever we can for our kids. And there's some tough love with the kids as well too, but I don't know. I can't dwell on what has sort of the shit that I've gone through, the shit that we've gone through that's got me to this point. I can't really dwell on that. All I have to do is think about what I can do to make sure that Molly has everything she needs in her life. And I think that's basically the only goal,
And
is to make sure that our kids have everything they
it's
need.
funny because a lot of times our perception of what kids need in life are completely different than what they actually need,
Right.
where we think, it's the
Oh yeah.
easier thing, or they need new shoes, or they need, where like really
Right.
they want us.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
they want us to be present. They want our attention. They want us to listen
Right.
to them, not necessarily even tell them what they need to hear, but just sometimes listen.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm learning that, and it's difficult. And I've looked to implement some changes recently along the same lines, and it's been quite gratifying, to be honest. And I think that it does strengthen your relationship with your kids and your family, and they
Yeah.
feel that.
Yes. Yeah, you're 100% correct. I mean, it's not about what they get. It's definitely not about the shoes and not about the whatever. It's about watching the hockey practice.
Yeah.
It's about spending time on a weekend just hanging out, whether they're just on their phones ignoring you and you're there, or you're doing something as a family or whatever. They just know that they're there. And I'm all in to, I mean, I guess that's with everything. That's with my business. That's with my family. Um, that's with my kids. I'm all in now, where before I wasn't all in,
Yeah.
And do you think
you
that
know.
your mental clarity, like, it was from that day, or do you think that your mental clarity continues to improve since
It improves.
yeah.
Yeah. It's that, I think that, like I said, that's the pebble that started the avalanche. And I think I've just
So look
made continual improvements in myself since then.
and how so? Like, I'm curious at, through the last 13 years, when have you made the biggest leaps? Like, or what were the things that you did that created the biggest leaps?
Honestly, going to the
He's
gym.
also lobbing you a softball right now, just a huge meatball for you
Oh,
to
is
say
he?
Christy.
Oh, I thought that was a given. Uh, yeah, yeah, exactly. No, yeah, lifestyle changes
Yeah.
in general. The Christy plays a huge part in that. Christy is the Christy is I don't even know how to describe
Mm,
it, because I've never had a relationship like that, like we have until now. But that Christy is a major driving force in my life for positivity, and gets me up in the morning and gets me like ready to take on the day. If you've got somebody, you know what it's like if you've got somebody that's behind you and somebody that's in your court all the time.
yeah.
Like Christy is 100% team Chris.
Hmm.
And knowing that you've got somebody in your court like that that's going to give you the push every day, that's everything. But when it comes to my mental health and it comes to my physical health, the best thing that I ever did was walking into a gym.
Mm,
And you guys have talked about this so much over the past few months.
yeah.
And I kept thinking, God, why can't today be the day that I'm on the podcast? Because you're talking about all the things that I really believe in, right? Coffee, working out, all that stuff. It's huge.
Yeah.
Going to the gym was the best thing I ever did for my mental
And
health.
you're still
Forget
going
the
to the
physical
gym
health.
now?
I have a trainer. He's in Arizona right now till the end of the month. So I could use some gym time
I
like
was gonna
right
say
now, but
you're looking a little loose.
I'm looking
Yeah.
pudgy. Is a
It's
little.
fine. He'll be back before
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah. Thanks for the help with the body dysmorphia again. That's fantastic. You miss one gym day and all of a sudden you're 10 pounds heavier.
It's what it feels like.
Um,
On a Saturday,
yeah,
it's
for
like,
sure.
man, I hate so much.
You guys have talked about this in the past as well too. Like, cause like Nick, you get up and you go to the gym and you can do that for yourself. For me, I need to have somebody standing there,
Mm,
like looking at their watch going, he's 15 fucking minutes late again. That's how I have to operate. So I've got Terry Scott is my trainer, and he's been my trainer for 10 years. And the guy's the best. He's 67 this year, and he kicks my ass 3 times a week
How did you
in his
realize
own
that you needed
personal
a
gym.
trainer?
I walked into that gym and they said, "Oh, congratulations! We've got this promotion where you get a free consultation with a trainer." And I walked in and I met Terry, and he's been my trainer ever since. After that first workout, I'm like, this is it. This is exactly what I need in my life. So I started working out with him, and yeah, I mean, God, 10 years or 11 years I've been training with him.
And up
And
and
it's the greatest.
and up until this point, you hadn't really spent much time in the gym. You were relatively unhealthy. Your mental health anxiety was pretty bad. You
Huge. Yeah.
had Molly, and you were just how did gym come into the equation? Was it just like, hey, I need to be healthy to be able to live longer, or was it like, hey, this may be able to help my mental health?
Because I felt like I mean, it was vanity, really. That's what got me to the gym. I felt like I felt like a 200-pound marshmallow. I was like, I just hated the way that I looked. I mean, I grew up really active. Skateboarding was part of it, but I was a competitive swimmer from early on. Listen, if you guys want to teach your kids work ethic without having to do it yourself, sign them up for competitive swimming.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to get up at 5 a.m. and get them to the pool. But man, that's the greatest sport for kids. Like I swear to God, I worked for a general contractor, and he came up to me one day and he said, "Did you swim when you were a kid?" And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "I can tell because of the way that you operate your jobs. You're here early. You're you have the work ethic that my kids had as swimmers." And it's crazy. But so I was always active. I was swimming, I was skateboarding, I was always doing something. And then then work took over. The film business was great, but it's not exactly a healthy business to be in. There's a lot of excess in that industry. So I was, smoking a lot, drinking a lot, and then came out of that pushing into my business full time and really thinking about that more than anything, and just kind of let everything go. It was more about getting the paycheck, getting the deadline, all that stuff. It wasn't about taking care of myself
yeah.
anymore. So yeah, then when I hit the gym, everything changed. I lost like 40 pounds in just a few months. I mean, I wasn't a big guy. I wasn't over. I've always been slim, but I lost 40 pounds and then started gaining muscle, and then my headspace changed, and I just started to feel better. And now I can't imagine going through life without working out. And then I realized, like, oh, I'm not having the back injuries anymore. I don't feel sore in the morning from hauling a kitchen in the day before. I can work a 12-hour day and feel great. It's got all these crazy benefits that I never thought about. And then I started looking at it as like training for work. I think I said this when you guys were talking about it on the podcast before, but I look at going to the gym as training for what I do. I mean, Tyler, what you do, Nick, what you do, we're we're basically athletes. We have a physical job that we go to every day and do, like, we do crazy stuff. And I'm 50 years old, and in August 22nd, if I didn't tell you
You
guys
did, you
earlier.
did.
Okay. We have to go to the gym to train for our jobs.
But it's so counterintuitive though, and that's the same thing that I did for so long. And I remember my
Right.
dad saying it too, where it's like, I don't need to go work out. Work
Right.
is
Yeah.
my exercise, and it's
It's
not the
not.
same.
No. What's really interesting about my trainer is that Terry, like, being his clientele is sort of older clientele. So my training is actually focused on work. It's focused on balance and carrying and lifting. It sounds so silly, and like it has nothing to do with it has nothing to do with muscle building. It has to do with it just has to do
Functionality.
with conditioning, functionality, and
Yeah.
conditioning.
And
Yeah,
how often are you going?
3 days a
3 days
week.
a week.
Yeah, I go after work. I used to, when I was on my own, going to the gym alone, I would go early in the morning, Saturdays and Sundays, because that wouldn't affect the family. I'd duck out before anybody woke up, and I'd be back by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning on the weekend. But getting myself to the gym was tough. So now with Terry, I go after work, 5 o'clock on Mondays Wednesdays, and then Saturday morning I go.
That's so
And
cool.
it's great, man. It's the greatest.
I
So
I never
like
really
even
Nick, have you considered getting a trainer?
Yeah. Um, I but I would consider I would consider what I have is a trainer. So I follow a program, and
right.
I don't have them physically there, but like I can message them
Mhm.
and be like, "Hey, I don't understand this exercise," or and like usually they
Right.
can get right back to you. But consider getting a personal trainer that's in person. I have. Um,
Yeah.
because I struggled for a while just to be like get into a rhythm or like find a plan that
Yeah.
I liked. And
Yeah.
a lot of the plans I was following was the same thing week after week after week after week, or it'd be like
It gets pretty boring,
yeah,
and you plateau as well.
yeah, and
Yeah.
or it was like a 6 or 8 week program, and then I finish it, and it was like, all right, what do you want to do now? It's like, all right, let's do that, but have a heavier focus on legs. So I do
Yeah.
the same thing. I'm like, it's boring. The the
Right.
program I'm on now, they issue a new workout every single morning. So it's a program that changes every single morning. There's, a community behind it. There's, feedback on like food and diet and I don't follow it exactly, but I do feel as though like that to me is a way that it keeps it creative, it keeps it interesting. I wake up not knowing what I'm about to
Right.
do. Um but yeah, I think that you know, you need that. It's like a coach, right? It's like you need someone to hold you
There's
Yeah.
accountability there,
yeah,
yeah.
the accountability. And I think that where, I'm sitting here listening to you talk, Chris, and I used to work with this coach who's a business coach. And there's been things that I just feel as though I'm not getting done that I want to. And I'm thinking
Right.
about accountability, and I'm like, maybe I should reach back out to that coach because I
Yeah.
feel like he really held me accountable for some of these things that, for whatever reason, right now just keep falling off my chart. Um,
Right.
and that's exactly what you're talking about with this guy is he holds you accountable. He's going to let you know if you're
Absolutely.
15 minutes late, and he's not
Molly
going to be
said
happy about it.
no. No, he's not. And I'm consistently 15 minutes late. Like
did,
I'm
did
not
you did
lying.
you
I'm
swim
terrible
did you
with it.
swim growing up?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was swimming. I swam here. Um, Molly said to me the other day, because I mean, it's obvious that my daughter's seen my change in mental state as well
Hmm.
too. I mean, I wasn't a basket case. It's it's just I laugh a lot more now.
Hmm.
Like I mean, I laugh my guts out now. Um, but she said to me, Terry's more like a friend and a psychologist than he is a
Hmm.
trainer. And I went, man, that you're right. That's my daughter telling me
Wisdom
this.
from a
Hmm.
13-year-old.
It's crazy. Yeah. And then when I told Terry that, I mean, he like that's a huge
Yeah.
compliment to
Yeah.
Terry, But I mean, I bounce stuff. It's not just bicep curls and pull-ups and push-ups and everything else. It's also, hey, I'm having this issue with my kid, and Terry's been through some stuff as well too. So he's a bit of a mentor as
Hmm.
well. I consider myself very lucky to have somebody like him in my life that can help me through some stuff. And I hope that I do the same thing for other people,
Yeah.
whether it's business related or whatever, just advice in general. I hope that I can do the same thing for others.
How old are the guys who work in the shop with you?
Adrian is a year younger than I am. We grew up together,
Okay.
and then Jeff's in his 30s, uh, mid to late 30s. He's What's really interesting is Jeff's the youngest in the shop, and he's the only Red Seal cabinet maker in the shop.
Okay.
He's the only
Mm.
trained cabinet maker.
Do you
In
do you find that any of those relationships present you with an opportunity to be somewhat of a mentor to them? Obviously, Adrian's right around your age, but with
Yeah,
Jeff possibly?
I hope so. I mean, he's a young father as well too. He just had a kid not too long ago, a daughter. I hope that I warn him and scare him
Yeah.
enough to, but he's got his shit together. That guy's great. He's He's leaps and bounds ahead of where I was when Wally was born. And Adrian's daughter's in her 30s. He's been through all this stuff. Adrian's more of a mentor to me than I am to
Yeah.
him.
But I
You
mean,
know, I consider myself really lucky with those guys too. I've got the best
But I
crew.
mean, even just saying, and I think that that's a lot of the gratification that Nick and myself get out of having
Right.
conversations with people on the
Yeah.
podcast, more so than the financial aspect of it, or even the business relationship, the business conversations, to be able to
Mm-hmm.
speak with people about life and struggles and provide some insight or commiserate about it. And how do you
Do you think that sets your podcast apart from other podcasts as well?
possibly? I think that we do a decent job of blending the business conversation as well as life conversation, because it's
Yeah.
what's important to me and what's important to Nick sometimes are the same, sometimes they're different things, so you get a different
Right.
perspective there. But I guess I just think, how are you hoping that that manifests itself in your life, or are you doing anything to create that circumstance within your life that you feel you can be to somebody else as these people have been to you in your life? I don't think it's something that you can
Well,
necessarily force.
right.
Um,
No, it's a great question. I guess I've always been a teacher. Like, I mean, people have said that about me. I've had a lot of employees over the years, like a lot of employees. And a number of them have said that to me, when they've left, moved on to other jobs, moved on to other, cities, whatever, is that the takeaway is that they've learned a lot about just being um, accountable in life. I mean, Christy laughs and she calls me Serious Murray a lot because I'm pretty serious about some shit. But it's if there's anything that I can give other people, is that um, is just to be absolutely present and accountable to your clients in business and to your family in life. And I think that's the only thing that I could possibly teach
it's
Mm.
anybody.
really hard to do,
It's
though.
actually Oh, I think it's a life goal. I think it's something that you've got to work towards forever. Like I think daily, I have to work towards that daily.
Yeah,
I I think that's why I don't see an end to what I do for a living as well too. Like I hear a lot of people go, "Well, I can't do this into my 60s." I don't I can't imagine not doing this into my 60s.
and is
I can't imagine not doing this into my
is that
70s.
are you indicating that that's because of the relationships, if not more the relationships than the work itself?
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
Meaning that
I think that
you
what
need to support them.
No.
the staff, you mean,
No,
like
no,
Jeff and
no,
Adrian,
I'm saying
or
more is the relationships and what you were able to experience
Oh,
with building and doing these projects
right,
with designers and
right.
families
right.
and people.
Yeah, I take so much away from my clients. It's funny how that's changed over the years. How like I consider so many of my clients friends now, and it's amazing that those relationships continue on. I've been lucky enough to be doing this long enough that we have built kitchens for um, clients' children now. I've built kitchens where the kids are running around while we're installing, and they're 10 years old, and now I'm installing kitchens for them while their kids are running around. Like that's and we get called because we are their cabinet makers, and that I don't take that lightly. I like it's a huge responsibility, but it's also a huge honor to be building for the same families for like generations, which is crazy. um, but I think it's those relationships that are the drive for me. It's the mutual respect that's a drive for me. It's something that I get now that I didn't get before. I attribute a lot of that to Instagram because people are more aware of what we
Mhm.
do. now. Um, we're respected as a trade more. That goes towards that hustle culture as well too, Tyler, that you were talking about last week. But
It's neat to hear that though, because at face value, if you're to look up Chris Murray cabinets online
yeah,
and see the work that you
yeah,
put out, it would appear
yeah.
as if so much of your self-worth or gratification was manifesting itself through the product that you're putting out, and there's not much of an indication as to how important those
Hmm.
relationships are for you.
Hmm. That's that. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I'm trying to remain a bit more private
Yeah.
as well. Like I changed the Instagram from my personal Instagram to technically the business Instagram now as well too, which and I don't have a personal Instagram. I take a lot from the relationships. I take a lot of pride in being the cabinet maker to certain builders in this city that I respect greatly. People that I wanted to build for my entire life that we build for now. I take a lot of pride in the families that we build for, and like I said, the generations that we built for. We recently rebuilt a kitchen. Well, not rebuilt, but we recently built a kitchen for somebody that I built a kitchen for 25 years ago. We tore out one of our
Mhm.
kitchens and put a new kitchen in,
That's crazy.
and that's
It's
Yeah.
just
crazy.
it's just cool to think there's very, I mean, I guess there's a fair amount, but most people who consider, "Hey, we're going to get a kitchen," it's going
Yeah.
to a store or going to a showroom
Right.
Right.
and having a
Right.
kitchen made, and very few people get to experience what you're able to offer, or, what
Right.
Nick's company is able to offer, and the fact that
Yeah.
you've remained true to that and you haven't outgrown that, and you have 3 people and you're putting out the work that you are. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
testament to who you are and where you've taken your business in the past few years. But it's really cool to listen to you talk and even refer to yourself as a cabinet builder. And it's nothing more, it's
Uh,
nothing less. And
right.
and
I never refer to myself as a business
yeah,
person
I
ever.
mean, it's just really cool to hear. And you're not looking to feed your ego. You're not looking to say, "Hey, we have this big cabinet shop." Like, you're just referring, I'm a cabinet builder. Like, that's all
Yeah.
that you are. And you were, again, the product that you're putting out speaks for itself. But I didn't realize how important these relationships are to you, and the
Yeah.
generational impact that you're having on
if
people.
if we don't have that as if we don't have that as builders, then what are we doing? We're just producing work.
Yeah.
We're just producing product. And I think that we're beyond that. I think we at this point, I think the the value that we bring to a job is much, much, much bigger than the quality of our work. It's um it's what did Adrian say the other day? He said to me, I was laughing my guts out at it because he was talking about uh, other people producing cabinets. I don't mean our competition. I don't think of any of the other shops in the city as competition, um, so to speak. But he was saying, look, do you want Led Zeppelin or do you want Greta Van Fleet?
Yeah.
Like, do you want the real deal or do you want somebody that's kind of a copy of what somebody's already produced?
What
Um, I want to be Led Zeppelin.
what a interesting comparison.
Yeah.
It
Um,
That,
it's I I didn't realize how much gratification there is in that, and I look back to the jobs that I walked away from the proudest. And a
yeah.
lot of times it wasn't because I had the highest profit margins or I completed that project in the quickest amount of time. It was something
Yeah.
that I feel really challenged me. And I was
Yes.
able to provide that customer not only with a product, but an experience that I was truly proud
Right.
of. And those are the
Yeah.
jobs that I somewhat crave more of. It's not the, hey, I made a
Yeah.
killing on this job. I want more like that. It's like, no, I want these jobs
Right.
that, maybe I didn't make as much, but the customer was so grateful, or I really blew their expectations out of the water, or it's a
Yeah.
job that I was uncertain of how I would execute, and I knocked it out of the park. And I I feel if more people were presented an opportunity like that in business or within the trades or working for somebody else, that it would probably be a bit different of a culture around what we're doing.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely not about the money. I mean, we talked about that right at the beginning, right? I mean, you're not making money being a furniture maker. So if you're becoming a furniture maker, it's because you get to be a furniture maker. It's not because you're going to get a brand new truck every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because you're going to be living the high life. It's because you're going to be sweating and you're going to be getting slivers, but you're going to be producing really cool stuff for people. And that was the draw for me. I mean, that might be the nature of people that are self-taught as well too. I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about this yesterday. It's like, my God, like I learned more from Norm Abram on PBS than from anything. I mean, when I started, it was Fine Home Building Magazine.
Yeah.
It was Fine Woodworking Magazine. It
Yeah.
wasn't go on the internet and see bring up a video of how to do something. So it's a bit hard scrabble. Like it's hard getting there, but it's the passion to create that keeps you going. So if you're just producing for work for people and you're not getting that, if you're not getting that stuff back from them, then there's no use even doing it.
Yeah, and that's the argument that I had when you initially said, "Hey, I'm self-taught." I don't know if that's the route that I would suggest for everyone. I fully understand
Oh,
where you're
right.
going with that, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it does inherently breed um this
Character,
yeah, this
maybe.
character within you and within your work that I do believe
Right.
is difficult to replicate when you're taking it. You struggle through it and you don't have all the answers, and a lot of times you can't just
No.
turn to somebody and to get the answers. You have to try and then have sleepless nights,
Yeah.
and in hindsight, it's not what I would recommend everyone to do, but I
Right.
completely value it, and I don't know if I would have chose a different path for myself.
Right. I don't think I would have either. But I mean, when you're laying up at night trying to figure out how to build a bunk bed, like
It sucks when you're in it. Like, it
it
sucks
sucks when
when
you're
you're in
in
it,
it.
especially when
Yeah.
you're developing your self-confidence, because it's
Yeah.
like you're gonna script this in your head and write this entire job out, and then you're gonna get in
Right.
there, and it's gonna be completely different than what you
Yes.
anticipated, and just if
Yeah.
somebody would just tell you, like, "Listen, you're just gonna have to figure this out,"
Yeah.
um, I think I probably would have saved me many sleepless nights.
I wonder how much wood I would have saved as well too in the
Yeah,
process. My
that's
God.
true.
Like,
Something
yeah, try and try.
something else I wanted to talk about is your love of Volkswagens.
Yeah, I could do a whole podcast on that too if you guys want to do
I
Hold,
another
mean,
one.
hold on.
Cause
I do have one other question on your other
yeah,
guys in the shop. So
Nick doesn't care about
I
Volkswagens.
do care about Volkswagens.
there's no LS engine or anything in
Oh,
there. Yeah.
then fuck that thing. Um, the other guys in the shop, what like with when you talk, we open this podcast talking about scaling your company or in the conversation that
Yeah.
you had to with Tyler. What about the other guys? Like, what are their thoughts as far as what they have left in the tank? Their potential for
Right.
growth. Is their growth or their financial well being tied directly to the success of the company? Like, how walk me through kind of that.
Well, that's huge for me. That's something that I think about daily.
Mhm,
So, we had the discussion yesterday about work-life balance, what we're going to do for the summer for hours.
mm,
Like I'm thinking about switching to a 4-day work week for the
mm,
summer.
yep,
I want Jeff to be able to spend time with his daughter. I want Adrian to be able to have more than 2 days off a week. So my goal well, I mean, that's something we haven't talked about really is business. My goal as a business person, which I don't do a great job at. I do a great job as, being a creative person, but as a business person, I think the goal for the future is for my guys to make more money, for my guys to have a healthcare plan. I mean, in Canada, we've got it pretty good, right? I mean, we've got, social benefits there. So that's good. But I mean, I do have healthcare in the works for the guys for things. I want them to be able to make more money. So I want to make sure that they get raises constantly. They're everything to the business. So I want to make sure that they get paid well. And then I want to make sure that they get the time off that they need so they can maybe be in a better mental state than I was, at 37 years old or however old Jeff is now, where he can spend time with his family and he can recharge before coming back to work on a Monday. So, I mean, that's where I want to be with the business. I don't want to get bigger. We're a small shop for life. That's how we are. And I'm so cool with that. I'm more cool with that than I've ever been.
But the guys are
so
too.
Yeah. Adrian said that the other day when we were driving back from a job site. He was like, yeah, we could all make more money. We could do production stuff. We could be doing 3, 4, 5 kitchens a day for condos or apartments or whatever. But I don't want to do that for a living. Like he'd walk. If I walked into the shop and dropped drawings on the bench for that, those guys would turn around and walk out of the building.
So when it comes,
and I wouldn't blame him.
When he mentions like, hey, yeah, we could make more money, is that, are they content with the money that they're making now, or are they?
I hope not.
And I guess the second part of that question would be, or are they looking at other ways to supplement their income?
No, neither of them.
And I don't necessarily mean that as side work. I mean that as like, buying a rental property or investing into something.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I hope so. I've done a terrible job of that as Christy's done a much better job of that than I have. My mom has done a great job of that. She owns properties. She's got a great business and she's retired,
it's something
other people do a better job of that.
It's something I think about a lot with, so many people that work between the companies, and there's a threshold as to what we can pay. And, and I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to pay them more. And at the end of the day, it's, despite how much I ever pay someone, there's never really, it's never really going to be quote unquote enough, in a lot of eyes. And, so I've kind of changed the conversation to how can I be a mentor or how can I help have conversations that help you put the money to work, where it's like, you're not trading your time for the dollars. You're, that's your main income, but you're then turning around and buying a rental property that puts an extra $100 into your pocket a week.
Yeah. Well, my goal as an employer is to make sure that, like I don't want guys to stagnate. I don't want them to be renting an apartment and not thinking about what they want to do. Like, I mean, Adrian's of the age that, he's got his own goals, right? Jeff, I said to him, I want to see you get a house. I want to see you, move up. He bought a house. He's moving up. He's doing great. But I think as a small shop, I think we have a better opportunity to pay more than larger shops. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but if you're running a high-end shop and you've kept that scale down, why can't you pay your 2 employees more if they're producing the same as a 4-employee shop?
So let me ask a question on that side of it. So you're running a high-end shop, there's a part of that which is directly related to the time it takes to build that kitchen.
Agreed.
Where, I can go buy a kitchen from, a manufacturer for $10,000, or I hire this shop who's considered a high-end shop, and the cabinetry could be $65,000. Is in your mind, is there an interest to selling that $65,000 kitchen for $100,000 because you're
Sure.
offering it at you're basically offering it as a product or or art, like kind of taking the art approach,
Right.
and the value is subjective where it's not directly related to the time involved. Um, because it's a conversation that we have internally, both on the building side as well as
Yeah.
the furniture side, and it's interesting because depending on who you talk to, some will say it's greed, and the others will say, no, that's amazing. Like, you
Right.
want to work with people that are so demanding of working with you that they will pay that price. And
Right.
of course, I want the profit margins to be larger, not because I want to put, not 100% of that profit is going to go into my pocket. It's going to
Yeah.
be primarily, it's going to be reinvested back into the business to create
Yeah.
more, to create an even better
Yeah.
product.
Well, and we're sort of we're a bit of an anomaly as well too, because I'm deathly afraid of I don't know what I'm deathly afraid of. Growth. uh,
You sounded
we're a cash
confident.
on the we're a cash on the barrel business. The bank doesn't own a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I think as a business person, I want to sell reputation and product over price. So I think that's what makes me a terrible business person, is because I don't think about the money. I think about the product more than the money. I mean, ultimately, when the tax bill is due and it's month end and source deductions have to be paid and workers' compensation, all that stuff, I'm thinking about the money.
Yeah.
My God, I'm thinking about the money like crazy. But the reality is that I've done a terrible job of pricing my jobs over the years. We all have. I work daily to make sure that we price properly, that we don't price ourselves out of the market, but we price according to the value that we bring to the table. We're really good at what we do. And we produce really, really good kitchens. Not just kitchens, we produce really good cabinetry, millwork, whatever you want to call it. And when somebody walks into one of our spaces, they may not know what the difference is, but it's a feel.
Yeah.
And people say that to us all the time. Like, I don't really know what's different about your kitchens, but they just feel better, because we put that stuff into it. That's worth something.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly. If there's a difference and you're able to offer something that somebody else
Right.
is not able to offer, you should be compensated for that.
I agree.
And
Yeah.
But that's directly related to the value. I guess what I was getting at is there ever this thought to sell above what the market, quote unquote, will support?
I actually hope that we're doing that
yeah, I mean,
already.
I don't know if it's related to market rates or market standard. I think that the argument is, if you're producing something that there's nothing else on the market, who's to say
Right.
what
Yeah.
you can charge? And not that you want to
What it's
rip
actually
people
worth. Yeah.
off, right? You feel you're not
No.
saying, "Oh, this is a $60,000 kitchen. I'm going to charge 160 for it." No, but
Right.
if nobody else in town can do what you're doing, and your guys need to be able
Yeah.
to afford health insurance and a house and everything else, and this is the cost of doing that
Yeah.
kitchen, then like
Totally.
there's
Yeah.
nobody can tell you that that's not fair, that you're ripping people off, or that you're price gouging. You're creating something that there's no comp for.
Right. And they also have the opportunity to just not hire us.
Exactly. And that's the benefit of being a small
There's
shop.
always Right. There's always going to be a cheaper alternative, but are you going to get Greta Van Fleet? Maybe.
Exactly.
Hey, listen, I saw
Right.
them. They were pretty awesome live.
But they're not Led
Oh no,
Zeppelin.
I don't. They're not. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. They're not, it's not even my kind of music. It's just a
I
great.
know.
It's just a great analogy,
It
right?
is, yes.
So, yeah, nothing against them.
Hopefully
They're
this
great. If you're
podcast
listening,
doesn't get to them.
I don't know. I just like what's the saying? Don't worry about your reputation, worry about your character. Something like that. I mean, I think that's the benefit of being a business that's been around a long time. Does that mean that we've always done it right? Have I never fucked up? No, I've done some, like, I'm being hard on myself, but I mean, we haven't always done it the right way, but we've always made it right, you know? But I'm at the point now where I want to build one way, and it's got to be, I want to say my way, but it's not my way. I want to build one way, and it's got to be the highest quality that we can produce. So there's certain things that we do in our kitchen specifically, because I love kitchens, is there's certain things that we do that we don't offer an alternative to. We do an automatic garbage opener. We do one style of garbage can. We do one style of drawer box. There are certain things that we found offer us zero callbacks, offer us the best feel in the kitchen, the way that things move, the best storage solutions. There's certain things that we don't change. So we're a bespoke shop. We're going to make it look exactly the way that you want it to look, the way that your designers designed it. We're going to make it exactly like the rendering. And we get that all the time. My God, it looks just like the rendering. So we're going to do that, but we're also going to make the internals of that kitchen the best that we can possibly produce. 3/4 inch product throughout, including backs, bloom, hardware throughout, really expensive garbage cans, which people go, I can't believe you're putting that garbage can in every kitchen, but that is the hardest working cabinet in the kitchen. And do I want to go back and fix a garbage soaked cabinet that we built and has failed? No, I don't.
Which one is it? Now I'm curious.
Well, that's the industry secret. I can't just let everybody know. No, we use Voth-Segal NV garbage cans that we buy through Hefele. I'll send you the link. They're the best of the best.
We've used the Helios for a while.
Yeah. We use their openers. So they make a Libero. I think they're like 3.0 or something now, 2.0. I can't remember, but we use their Libero auto openers on every single kitchen gets one. I do it for free. I put it in. It's just in there.
Is it a servo drive?
It's kind of it's like a servo drive. It just uses a single servo piston to push the door open.
Got it.
So it hits on the back of the door and pushes it open. It shines a little light underneath. You pass your foot underneath, like the hatch of your car or whatever, and it opens up. So we put them on every kitchen. So there's certain things that we just don't offer as an alternative. This is it. This is the way we build them. And I think our clients appreciate that. I didn't know, they say, like, I didn't know I was getting that. Well, yeah, you hired us, so you get it.
Yeah, right.
Like, we take so much pride in that. Have you ever heard of somebody so passionate about fucking garbage cans in your life? No.
That's always a good thing to hear, though. We didn't know we were getting that. A lot of times it's like, oh, we thought we were getting this.
Right.
Generally, if you're hearing we didn't think we were getting that, that's a good thing. Like, damn, I could have charged more.
As long as you don't hear, I didn't think it was going to be that much money. Yeah.
No, it's like, I could have charged more.
You don't want to leave it on the table either. I mean, that's the thing. If you hand somebody an invoice and they go, oh, geez, that's nowhere near as much as I thought it was going to be.
Like, oh, shit, we didn't charge you for the garbage cans. Hold on.
I gave you the wrong one.
This is a progress invoice.
Yeah, exactly. That's only 45%.
No,
we'll get you the rest.
You got to actually, and I would leave this up to you, Chris, to get us some photos of work that you did, kitchens aside, as well, for us to share, for Nick to see. I know you've sent me stuff on the side that's pretty impressive, aside from kitchens that you have built, that I would say
you got pictures
of what you can do.
You got pictures of that bunk bed as well. And hopefully we'll be posting some of that stuff. I'm incredibly proud of what we do. Like, I am very lucky to have been around long enough that people know our name in the industry and that they trust us with the jobs that we're given.
I mean, even as far as that bunk bed goes, that's it's
crazy.
It's something that not many people would be able to do, and the execution of it is impeccable. So,
Yeah. It's that way in real life. It's not just photographic tricks, you know. We've got to make it last. So everything is it's great. I mean, but that's why I focus so heavily on designers as my client. Like so a lot of times I work more for the designer than I do for the people actually using the kitchen in the end. I mean, ultimately we're incredibly dedicated to those clients and we want to give them the best product that we can give them. But the designers have been my bread and butter over the years.
yeah, you could definitely
So
see how much that's impacted your business.
yeah, it's huge. It's everything. And I would actually recommend that to people starting out in the business is to like think about your end user and think about your market more than your construction.
Mm.
The construction comes, but you have to think about who you're building for.
I and I think that directly relates to what you just said a minute ago is, the client being like, "Oh, I didn't know we got that."
Yeah.
And it's this whole like over delivery, being
Yeah.
being so thorough
Yeah.
and thorough. And I know I've mentioned it, and people are probably sick of me talking about it. But that book, Unreasonable Hospitality, this is what it talks about.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing all of these extra things that
Hmm.
in the grand scheme of things, to put that actuator on the or that servo drive or piston drive on that track,
Actuator's a good term. Yeah.
is small dollars, but for them to
Hmm.
respond that way, there's
Hmm.
an incredible amount of equity that you just built with them. And I think
Absolutely.
that I think that's an absolute great point is, thinking about the end user, thinking about the experience, really
Yeah.
understand, what is it that, that they expect, and how do I over
Yeah.
deliver on that? And and oftentimes as unfortunate as it might sound, just being a good communicator puts you in a
Yeah.
very high position for client satisfaction.
That's a huge part of it. I mean, and communication, I'm finding like over the last 5 years, communication is sort of it's become key to everything. The way that I communicate to the guys in the shop through drawings, the way that I communicate to with the general contractors that I get to work with. You guys have got the sponsorship with Buildertrend.
Mm.
I don't think you hear from guys like me about Buildertrend very often, but that's a major green flag for us. If a builder comes to us and says, and you can cut to the commercial whenever you want, but the if a builder comes to us and says, "Let me send you the Buildertrend link for our site meeting,"
Yeah.
that's a huge green flag for us.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
love that. Like, bring me all the information, bring me all the communication, bring me the text message group so that I can keep up on what's going on and know when we need to be in there and when we need to do our job. And it is absolutely everything. And we're really lucky to work with guys like Collaborative Construction in the city here that they they just knock it out of the park every time with that. And it's really about just letting your trades know what's going on. Like a group text message is the easiest thing in the world to set up.
Yeah.
But to know where everybody is and to be able to send pictures back and forth and get updates from site and oh my God, like coming from a guy that learned from Norm Abram on PBS on a Sunday to now the technology to be able to just like text message a group of guys and get photographs instantly from the job site, like
It's
that is
irresponsible not to
unbelievable.
be utilizing that at
A
this
hundred
point.
percent, 100%. Yeah, and
And
that's 100%. It is absolutely everything. If you've got that software, if you've got an app that can make your life that much better and your customers experience that much better, why are you not using it?
it's funny. My one of my trades, I was chatting with him yesterday on site, and he was telling me about this other builder he works for, and he's like, "Dude," he's like, "What? How soon are you gonna have just project after project after project that I could be on?"
Right.
I was like, I don't know why," and he goes, "I just don't want to work for anyone else."
It's
And
true.
he's like, I literally want to slow down, just work for you, and retire, and not
Yeah,
work for another builder."
it's
And
absolutely true.
I was like, "Well, why?" And he goes, and he was telling me he he went up to another builder he was working for, and he was like, "Hey, do you have the drawings and the layout and the product information for me?" And he's
Yeah.
just like, "No." He goes, "How am I supposed to do this?" He's like, "You got to just figure it out." And
Figure it
he's
out.
like, "Dude, I need the information. I don't know, like, I don't know the layout. I don't know what
Yeah.
the tile that you're using here." And he told me, the guy turned around and looked at him. He goes, "Fuck off."
Seriously?
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And the guy, and he
That,
was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, I just didn't know." Like, he's like, "All I'm asking for is the
Is what's
information
needed.
for me to
okay.
do the job."
Fuck
And the
So
guy
off.
told me to fuck myself. And then he's
So
like,
Tyler, go back to the hustle culture thing then. So this is something that we have to actually fight within our industry, in the sense that a general contractor isn't even going to treat a
"Oh,
sub
yeah,
as a professional.
Yeah.
So
I
even
mean, how
like
can you expect?
we're fighting it within our industry, not just with
Yeah.
the general public.
mhm,
Yeah, I
So
mean, how can
that's
you
going to be
expect
right,
them to treat us a certain way if
right.
we're not treated that way internally?
yeah,
So that's going to be the same general contractor that has no garbage cans on site. The bin is full out
absolutely,
front. There's no porta potty. There's no floor protection. There's no vacuum. There's no broom. He's relying on his trades to build his entire business and do all of his work.
yep,
So
yep."
those are
No,
the
no
guys that
management,
I absolutely do not want to work for.
right?
So we just don't. And maybe that's, I mean, I don't want to come off as arrogant, but
No,
this is the
you're.
reality. This is the
This is the
reality of
world that we live
today's,
in.
this is the
Absolutely,
world,
yeah,
right? So if you're not bringing that stuff to the table for your subcontractors, why do you want your subcontractors to bring anything to the table for you?
Yeah. I mean, that it's really important, especially with all the paper contractors that are out there
Oh, it's
today,
huge.
and
Yeah.
how easy it is to go
Right.
down that path or take that approach to business.
Right.
That's a really valid and important thing to note, that it's, if you want your subs and your vendors to execute, you have to have skin in the game. You can't just
Right.
build a business based on what they're doing. If
Yeah,
you're if
absolutely.
you are putting any stake in it.
Right. So, like, I mean, and it's sort of old school. Like, I mean, Nick, you've got employees. There are a ton of general contractors out there that don't have employees, right? They
yep,
just have subs. Um, it says something to us when we walk onto a job site and there's a garbage can and there's floor protection,
hmm. Oh yeah, you said,
and
yeah,
there's a guy that's in charge of that.
that has been something that we've heard a lot from,
It's
especially
huge.
from our trades, where it's like, hey, the fact that there's one person here, and then
Yeah.
and they're, I'm not calling people, chasing people, calling
Yeah.
you. Like, I don't even get a phone call anymore, which
No.
sometimes I miss, but there's other times where it's like, I know when I show up, it's like, no, there's someone here that is directing it. So
Right.
it's good.
Well, we love it too, because then you know that when guys come through, they're not going to dump their wrappers and everything into
Yeah.
our cabinets.
Yep.
That was one of the reasons we switched to solid tops on our cabinets as well, so
Hmm.
that, like, we don't use stretchers. We're 3/4 inch solid top for everything.
Yes.
Now
That's one.
it doesn't look like a waste bin anymore.
Yeah.
It looks like a
I posted
cabinet.
something on my story today. The guys, kept dealing with dust in the slide. So now when the box shows
Yeah,
up, they take a piece of plastic and tape off the front of the cabinet
it's
while
perfect.
there's no doors on it. And I'm like, dude,
It's
like,
perfect.
I love
Yeah.
seeing that.
So that's why we don't ship to a job site without the drawers installed. So not
Yeah.
only you don't want to haul the drawers separately and have them, oh my God, we got a measurement mistake and none of the drawers fit, but
Right.
we deliver everything with drawers installed, and then it
Yep.
keeps the dust out of the slides and
100%.
keeps everybody from using it as a garbage can.
Yeah.
Tyler, you talked about the VWs. Do you want to talk about
Yeah, I
VWs?
do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best things in my life as well too. Is I've got a group of friends that are VW guys, and it's the one thing that I can it's the only way I can shut off my cabinet maker's brain, is to become a terrible mechanic for short periods of time in my life, or when it's a necessity, when the damn thing's broken down on the side of the road.
Hmm.
So you're buying them and restoring them?
There was a while there where I didn't love what I did for a living, and I thought maybe I could be a VW, where I could restore VW buses full time. which was kind of crazy at the time because they weren't selling for the amount that they are now.
And
Like they're
then you
through the
stopped
roof for
smoking.
price.
Then you stopped smoking weed.
And then I got exactly. Yeah, it's kind of the right bus for it. It's kind of the right vehicle for it, though, right?
Yeah.
But I got my first car was a '76 Beetle, and I have continued to own Volkswagens since I was 15 years old. So I have and had a lot of VWs over the years, and my passion is old, like I mean old early VW buses. Give me all of the old VW buses, and I
How many do
will.
you have?
Right now, well, I've got 3 drivers right now,
We can
and
always
then
edit this if you want us to pull this out later.
yeah, sure, yeah. No, I have 3 driving. I have 3 driving buses, and then a whole bunch of projects. You got to have a bunch of projects in the yard for like retirement, is what I like to call them. But
And the ones that are driving started as projects?
yeah, yeah. One of them, I actually ran the business with my old. I call it my old green truck which is a show truck now. But I started.
That thing is
I
sick.
started. It's crazy. Yeah, I've owned that. I've owned that since I was 19 years old. So,
Really?
yeah. So I started the business in a VW Squareback, which is a station wagon, and I used to have to design the furniture around the size of the plywood and stuff that I could fit in the station wagon. So I'd go to the lumber yard and they'd cut it to size and I'd jam it in the back of the old station wagon and get it to my shop, which is in the basement of a warehouse, and I could only carry certain sizes down the stairs. Insane. Anyway, and then I upgraded to an old truck and I bought that double cab, which at the time was totally practical. It was just it was cool because who doesn't want to be cool when you're 19 years old? But it was also practical because I could actually haul full size sheets in it. And so, yeah, I ran the business with that for a while, but there's no heat in them. And we live in a godforsaken cold country. So that's not the
Are
best
they just
thing.
pulling heat off the engine?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And
Yeah, that
if something's rusted or missing, you're freezing your balls off.
yeah.
It's horrible.
So you've completely restored that one?
The green one
Yeah,
is
the green one.
the green one was a complete bolt by bolt, piece by piece rotisserie restoration,
That's
Uh,
and it took me God 5 years I think
when
to
did
do it.
when did you finish that?
I finished it in 2010.
Okay.
And I mean, since then I've only put on like I drove it to
Yeah.
BC. I drove it to BC for a car show, and then it was featured in a bunch of magazines. And yeah, it's it's all this stuff that I thought about doing when I was young that I didn't think I'd ever be able to make it in a magazine restoring an old VW, and now I've been in a bunch of them all over the world. That's the coolest thing ever. So I joke and I say that a number of years ago, I sort of reached peak coolness and it's all been downhill from there. But I think I've got a couple more restorations in me yet. So we'll see. Maybe I'll make it in a magazine again. I'm on a podcast. You guys interviewed Norm Abram.
It's true.
This is bananas. Now you're talking to me. And I
Now we're talking
made,
to you.
I made it in a couple of VW magazines. So life is complete, right?
You can
It's
hang it
cool.
up at this point. Nick, have you seen any of his
Yeah,
Volkswagens?
I have. Yeah, they're badass.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so
pretty sweet. So
Yeah, I'm
you don't
pretty
drive
lucky.
them that much at this point?
Well, the street, it's funny because here it's like, we deal with so much snow and
Yeah.
so much cold, right? I don't recommend anybody live here.
No.
It's not hospitable. I love my city, but wait, I don't know. Maybe it's the time of year. We often joke around here that in the summer you don't talk about winter.
hmm
You forget about it because you get like a 4 to 6 month break without any cold, so
Right.
you just don't talk about it. And we're at the time of year where the snow is just gone, the streets are filthy, and it's gray. It hasn't started greening up here
Yeah.
yet, so it's kind of a bad time of year.
That's pretty much
But
all winter in New Jersey.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I've been there in winter, I know, but um, the street sweepers are out. So that means if the street sweepers are out, that means I'm busting out a bus really soon. So maybe this
Nice.
weekend.
Nice.
I did some work on the 15 window that I've got last summer, and we got it back in the fall from a buddy that was helping me with it. And I only got to drive it once before the snow hit. So that I'm going to break that one out as soon as probably Saturday. There'll
Yeah,
be pictures.
I was at one of my buddies from growing up. He passed away, but I'm still friends with his older brother and his dad. And his
Mhm.
dad always restored cars growing up. And I was talking to him this past weekend. I was like, "Do you get the cars out?" He's like, "Nope. Pull them out, wash them every now and then they go right back in the garage." And it's like,
And
you
that's
spent
it. Hey?
how much time
Yeah.
and money and effort restoring these
Yeah.
cars, and like they're badass,
Yeah.
and then
Drive them.
they just
Drive
sit.
them. I did 3,500 miles in the green truck to a show in Vancouver, and I had all these breakdowns. And it was super stressful. And then you get there, and it's like, oh my God, I just drove across the country in an old VW bus
Right.
for a car
Yeah.
show.
And
And
that's
it's
all
the
worth it.
coolest thing. Like
Yeah.
we've driven to California, friends and I, driving buses to California for a car show. And yeah, that's when I reached peak coolness. I think there was a guy that did a whole video, um, sort of documentary on us driving down to California for this car show. And then, there's great music and everything in the edit, and we all looked really cool for that time. The reality was we're laying on the pavement underneath, doing oil changes and trying to figure out why it wasn't running, and all this stuff. It was a real challenge to get down there. And I've got a car show in Orange County in June, so I'm going to be going to California in June.
Hell yeah.
That's
I won't be
sweet.
driving. I'm flying in because I don't have the time to break away from the shop. I mean, can you imagine? It takes 5 days just to drive there from here. So
Right.
that's what
Not
2 weeks of
not in a
driving.
VW
Right.
or
In a regular car.
in a
No, in
regular
a
in a
V,
re Oh,
no, in a
okay.
regular car, I could probably do it in a couple days.
Alright.
It's in a VW with
VW's
breakdowns.
5 days.
It could be a month.
Easy. Well, Chris,
Yeah,
I appreciate you getting on. I know it's been a long time coming. At some point,
that's
we're gonna have
great.
to get Christy on as well. I know we had discussed that, but
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be
it's
fun.
difficult with multiple people, and
yeah. It would
get
be
her
worth it to talk to
perspective
her
on
for sure.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
There's so many great guys out there. There's so many great companies out there that deserve to sort of get out and tell their story, and where you can put a face to them as well too. Like you see the Instagram, you see the Facebook stuff, you see the websites, but you don't really get to see who's behind it. And a lot of times we forget that they're just regular people struggling to just produce the best stuff that they can produce.
yeah, well, I
Or
mean, go ahead.
just pack a lunch for the day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's not all big. Sometimes it's just the little stuff. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the relationship that you've had in my business and life all these years. I was like going back through conversations we've had,
right.
and it's gone back a while. And I appreciate the honesty and the candor and the support for not only myself personally, but everything we've done with the podcast. It doesn't go unnoticed.
It's a
I
different
appreciate.
podcast.
Yeah.
It touches on all the stuff that everybody else should be talking about. It's not just about profit and loss statements.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I certainly appreciate all of that, and